Okay, so here are my thoughts on Eido LSE in Roux one-handed solves and trying to incorporate them. So I kind of think of like incorporating Eidos as different to stuff like F prime F, B prime and B, and like in double flick M2s. And for those, I just recommend getting used to them in solves because it's way easier to get used to flowing between those moves and like the regular moves like RU moves through just doing solves. But it's quite a different story with Eidos where you'd really have to know what you're comfortable with, and it's not really as obvious and clear cut as it is with these finger tricks. So for Eidos, I'd recommend taking it part by part, and this is kind of what I did, but there are some optimizations that I've thought of to how I would improve the way I learned it. So what I do is first start off with Eidos and cmll, and I guess in a second block too if you're up for it, but mainly cmll. So for example, with this cmll, the inverse and the mirrors, you should be able to do your Eidos quite fluently, or at least you should try to get used to doing Eidos in that cmll specifically. And one important thing is that you don't reload your finger after you're done with the U2 prime or the U2. You keep your finger there and then do your next move, or like keep your finger in a similar position while doing your next move, so you won't have to pause to move your finger again. Now this will be really 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 difficult from the start, and I had that experience. It was very difficult, but your fingers will eventually get used to being in these awkward positions, and it'll be very helpful, especially for LSE, where you'd want to do your Eidos completely pauseless. So while getting used to doing Eidos in cmll, I'd also recommend doing Eidos for some 4C cases, like the 4 move cycles or the 3 move cycles, like these ones. So for these, I just do Eido U2s for those 3 movers, and like same thing for the back angle. Just getting used to that. U2 in both directions depending on what your previous U move was. So if it was like this and I'm doing a front one, I'd do U2 prime. And similarly, like if I was doing like a U prime and then a front one, I'd do a U2 instead. Although usually in solves, I just default to U2 prime. And this is something that you can figure out with experience once you get used to Eido LSE. But after kind of getting used to your 3 movers and also getting used to Eidos in cmll, you can then start to expand on what you know with Eido LSE. So instead of just doing it for 3 movers, you could do it for the other 4C cases like vertical bars, MTU2, MTU2, so horizontal bars, or expand to the 5 movers. And that will just help you get used to also doing your M2 double flicks with Eidos, which take a bit of time to get used to. But expanding from 3 to 5 will give you that really solid base that you'll need, which will greatly help with getting used to M2U2 Eidos and like variants of those. And once you get used to that, you can then expand to doing it for the whole of LSE. And even during the middle steps, when you were kind of getting used to Eido LSE, you could even incorporate your Eidos in like second block or first block whenever it felt comfortable. Now, Eidos are situational, and in some cases it is most likely better, and it is definitely safer to just not Eido. And this is mainly in first block and a bit in second block. But in general, once you get used to Eidos, you can start experimenting and kind of figuring out what you personally like doing. So I know I have a huge bias towards U2 prime in LSE, and I'll try to do U2 prime even if my move before doing like the U2 prime was a U prime. So like if I was doing U prime, M prime, U2 prime, I do a U2 prime instead of a U2 there. And that's something I figured out from experience, and I figured out that I liked U2 prime more than U2. So yeah, that's basically my thought process.